time. I be the man that lasts in the suckers. I be the man that run the suckers. You know you cocksuckers. I'm the man that's drinking vanilla. Crown Royal feeling real smooth. Dude, attitudes be changing left and right. I ain't talking about nothing coming off the top of the brain. I'm feeling like insane podcast. Unpredictable like mystical. We doing that thing. We bang. Easy breezy. Back in Hawaii. Loving what I gotta do to make it easy like me. Steve, huh? Alexandria. I don't wanna mess with anybody. Look, I'm the man in the game.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Unpredictable Thoughts Podcast. Your boy Trouble's in the building.
What's up, y'all? It's your girl Maiya, the designing agent here.
Hey, we doing virtual. Like
We
they got it.
virtual.
Like
This is
Zoom.
fun.
I never thought that I would do a Zoom podcast, but
I didn't know how it was gonna go. But I mean, once you told me how, I was just like, okay, well, it kind of makes sense. So, this is, life now. So that's what we're working with.
it took me a long time to buckle because I like in-person conversations. Like,
Exactly. And, we trip, we have our drinks, we talk a little bit beforehand and it just flows different. But I don't know. I mean, I guess this is how the world's going to be working.
yeah, for a couple, depending on how long it go. But we are practicing social distancing at its finest.
We are staying safe. But Hogan is, I know he released something about starting, I guess, the second wave or second shift of it,
Oh, the second phase.
Yeah, second phase. So I guess that's supposed to be happening soon. I haven't checked any news outlets, but it's supposed to be happening soon.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But make sure y'all check out unpredictablethoughts2.com to get that keep that same energy merchandise.
Same energy.
What else we have? I'm Good Love Enjoy merchandise. If you use promo code RONA, RONA, 20% off, baby.
That's wrong. I got my keep that same energy tank tops, which I will be rocking all summer long. But make sure you go and cop yours.
Yeah, we in the building. So we got some special guests in the building today.
Yes,
Some very special guests. I believe, it's not that I believe, I know, as of right now, these special guests, they're all teachers and they're all unsung heroes.
Yes, I
They
see
are
that
all unsung heroes.
Yes.
And I believe right now, parents, they praising y'all.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah,
I feel as though parents have a love-hate relationship with teachers.
When they in school, I feel like it's something different, but now it's like they're seeing their kids first and what teachers really have to go through.
Yeah.
Different.
But but I believe it doesn't, like, even though that parent is going through it with their child, these teachers, they have like 30 to 40 maybe. I don't know what's the highest number a classroom can go, but like they have about like 40 different personalities in one classroom. So like that one parent complaining about their one student is like little to none.
Exactly. And if they listen, I know I was attention deficit. I know I was hyper as hell. So I can only imagine what these teachers are going through nowadays. Because kids they're terrible. They don't.
Yeah. So for this podcast, as we can see, we got 3 teachers in the building.
Hey.
We have Brianna, 3 years of
Bria.
teaching. Oh, huh?
Yes, Bria.
Oh,
hello, Bria.
Who's you to messed up the teachers?
Bria.
Brianna?
Bria.
Who is?
Yo.
It's okay. I get it all the time.
It's Bria.
I get it all the time. It's fine. I get it all the time.
So y'all, we have Bria, not Brianna. Thank you.
My bad. Where I get that from?
It's okay. I get it all the time.
Hey, she get it all the time, so I ain't the first one.
Oh my God.
I apologize. My notes is all messed up now.
Mm.
Yeah. Let me go.
Okay, introduce our next guest.
I'm scared. Like, We
Well,
got
I
Coach.
can read, so I'm going by the names. I would like to introduce my longtime friend. She and I, we have been friends for shit. It's been some years, man. It's been some years. I think I'm at
14 years?
yeah, 14
15?
has to been. I met her when I was
Since 11?
yeah, since middle school into high school. So, this is my friend Trinity, y'all. She is a teacher and a mommy, and I'm so proud of
Hey, guys.
her. Chris.
Oh, my bad. No, because I was looking. It's Trinity Brianna. That's what it is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I was going off of.
Sorry, I spoke too soon. I spoke too soon. Sorry.
Yeah, that's what I was going off of, Trinity Brianna. But in my notes, I just put Brianna.
Okay.
So my apologies. And then we got Coach James in the building.
Hey.
9 years, 7th grade teacher, out of Richmond, VA, teaches history.
Okay.
Bria, you teach what? 5th grade, correct?
5th grade. Special
5
education.
years. 5 years teaching out of Howard County. You teach special education.
Yep.
What's ELA?
Language arts.
Oh, okay.
English language arts.
Okay. Language arts and math, and then Trinity.
Yes.
Brianna, Trinity Brianna. We have you for 3 years in teaching out of Baltimore County with all subjects.
Yes.
Yes.
All subjects.
All subjects. You
A lot. That's a lot.
you versatile.
Yeah, very versatile.
Oh no, it's hard. Trust me. My
I
goodness.
can imagine.
So I guess my first question to y'all, with everything going on is like, how were you able to process when they made the announcement that, because the school's closed for Baltimore?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so for Virginia as well, I'm pretty sure.
Richmond made the call.
How were you able to process when they made that announcement that school's going to be closed for the rest of the year? Because it is like testing season, from my understanding, like right after the holidays, like once we get into like February, March time frame, it is testing from my understanding.
Yeah.
So how were you able to process?
I know more so for me, it was kind of detrimental because it was like I was already going on maternity leave before they decided to close schools. So I guess for me, I was just hoping that I was going to go back to school, see my kids, be able to spend time with them, finish building that bond and finish pushing them to the level that they needed to be at, for 4th grade. 3rd grade is a really intense year for them because they go from doing adding from 100 to adding to 1,000, multiplying up to 100, learning fractions, learning about what quadrilaterals are, learning about area. So 3rd grade is so intense for us. It's like us being out of school is so hard for them, especially now. It's like even now I'm noticing like not a lot of my kids are online. Not a lot of my kids are doing the work. So it's a big change. It's hard.
Bria, how do you, feel in, the learning style?
So, I'm sorry, say it again.
I said, how do you feel about the change and the shift of the learning styles?
So I always try to think about how the kids are feeling and the parents. It's a big change for everybody. So one thing that I remember my principal always says, do what you can and don't put too much stress on yourself. So when parents call me venting about like their kids failing, I'm like, of course, encourage your child to do this. And we haven't figured it out just yet. I just do my best. I make sure I could time, make sure I'm keeping in like close communication with like parents and my students. But my kids are in 5th grade, so they're almost in middle school. So I try to hold them accountable for the most part. But I just try to just be understanding.
Okay. What about you, Coach?
It's a big change. Trying to teach us. I'm sorry, say it again, Coach.
Nah, you go ahead. If you finish, go ahead and finish what you were saying.
No, I'm done. It's just trying to be understanding to the parents and the students.
I think the biggest thing for us was that I'm really, as a 7th grade, I've taught 7th and 8th grade my entire career, and my biggest thing to connect is building relationships with students. So I know everyone's kind of like moving to the online thing, and in Richmond, our students don't have laptops. You know, some of the counties, neighboring counties, have all laptops and have the technology. So not having the technology so we can still interact with our kids on a daily basis, because just giving the kids worksheets or homework sheets and things like that, 7th and 8th grade, you know, they are older than some of the elementary level kids, but they're in the mind, they still do elementary stuff. So not having them and seeing them every day, building that rapport and that relationship. With me, I'm not necessarily the biggest curriculum person. I feel like that's important, but life skills, what they're missed, like the world is changing and education is always changing. So it's kind of hard to keep teachers on pace, but you know, with the world changing, not being able to see my kids every day, like I'm not a parent, I don't have any brothers and sisters, so my students, like, they family. Like,
yeah,
when I coach, I wasn't a varsity, I didn't play varsity basketball, varsity football. Those are my little brothers. So not being around them and, you know, not just providing that positive male mentorship that our young Black kings and queens need, you know, that's killing me right now. So I think that's one of the biggest things.
Are y'all, I mean, so they're getting packets or did they just pass everybody for the school year?
Everyone's different. I'm gonna let the ladies go ahead and touch on that one.
Now I know. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Like my little cousins or nieces and nephews, they were fortunate enough to get.
For Howard County,
they have laptops, but I know some of Baltimore give some laptops out to some schools. Yeah, but some, not all. Some.
Do they go to school in Baltimore County or in Baltimore City?
Now this is city.
Okay, I know Baltimore County, they had parents actually go online for 3rd grade and up. Well, for 3rd to 5th grade, because in middle school and high school, the kids get their own devices that are assigned to them throughout the whole years that they're at the school, and they keep that laptop and they take it home with them and they bring it back. Because in Baltimore County, we're really big on technology. Because of the fact that technology is changing every day and everything is being transitioned into technology, and with like saving paper and stuff like that. But with like the 3rd to 5th grade, we had to fill out forms, because my son is in 5th grade and we had to fill out forms, and then they mailed us computers. So they started out with packets and they were sending them, but once they made sure that every kid in Baltimore County had a laptop, they stopped sending out packets and basically made it mandatory that the kids sign on every day to complete the work. And now I'm unsure of how it goes if the kid doesn't complete the work, but I do know that we're not giving passing or failing grades at this point, because of the fact that some parents can't afford internet, or some parents can't, you know, sit with their kid every day and make sure that they're getting their work done. And not only that, but like I was saying before, with this online learning being so different when the kids are online, it's like we're in a constant battle and struggle with, oh, well, how do I get this to open? Well, Miss Stevens, I don't know what I'm doing. Or can you show me how to do that again? Or how do I get there? Or my computer won't let it open. So it's like every day, it's you know, I'm repeating the same thing over and over and over again, because it's like they're still babies. They still have no concept or no understanding of how to truly work the computer. So it's overwhelming.
I can imagine in 3rd grade it'll be that way, because 3rd grade, like they're still kids, but they want to be grown so bad.
Yeah.
For my 5th grade, so it's a rule across the Howard County that they have to do at least 50% of the work in order to pass. However, I think something that they told them. Yeah, well, it's not packaged, it's online. But I really don't see them failing anyone because of the circumstances. But they told the students that they had to do at least half of the work to pass.
I mean, I guess that's fair.
Yeah.
Now, I guess I'm sorry, Ryan, I'm gonna let you go ahead and say your piece first, and then I'm gonna go ahead and ask the next question.
Yeah. All right, so our district, school, our last day was March 13th, right? Yeah, March 13th was that Friday. We did a 2-hour early release that day, and
Wow.
half of the school was not there. We found out kind of like that Thursday afternoon, they had canceled most after school activities. The only thing that we had was tutoring, and we had our first and only flag football game of the year. And we sitting here out here having the game, and we hear that, we're going to be out for 2 weeks. So the assumption that we thought we were going to be out for 2 weeks, we were supposed to come back a week and then have spring break. So we thought, cool, we're going to get these 3 weeks. We're going to have our spring break. We'll be back. We weren't prepared. And since the superintendent said he was going to buy 10,000 laptops, and he was going to buy a daggone hotspot, because, a lot of our students are under the poverty line. So they were going to provide resources to do so. Laptops came in a little later. In terms of grading, they stopped grades March 13th. So basically, if a student was passing, by the time we left, they're going to pass and move on. Teachers are on the bench right now. Like there are some teachers who are still kind of doing it pro bono. We made our own Instagram accounts. We made our own little different things like that to connect with our students. Some people were doing Zoom. Those got shut down though, because we had some students being inappropriate on the Zoom, whether posting pictures or posting wild stuff. Like, remember, I deal with middle school kids. Middle school ain't middle school no more.
No.
They in that in between stage of like learning something, but still having those like babyish ways.
Bro, they do grown up. They do grown. Am I allowed to curse on the podcast? They do grown stuff, but they still in the mind of a child. So, but going back to the grades thing. So right now, like if you were passing March 13th, you good. For our 8th graders or 7th graders who might be taking high school credit, they have to do like a weekly module. And it's basically like, if you do it, you get credit for it. So they'll get their credit. But yeah, grades and grading, we're on the bench right now. And
that's tough. I mean, that's really hard. Like,
what's the scalability and accountability with that, as far as like, I send you, hey, log into this. You want to hear a funny story? I seen on Facebook, or it was Twitter. It's probably Twitter, because you see everything on Twitter first. But it was this kid, he was like in the 4th grade, he had to like log into class, and he blanked his screen out, and then he put his name as reconnecting, ...
I saw that.
Hey, yo, what? If he's in middle school, he gets an A for effort. I don't care. Like that, you can't tell me. He is smart enough to know, like, hey, I'm about to hustle the game.
I got a question for you, Ryan. So because of the group, I guess the age the grade that you're teaching, there has been no clear definition if the next school year will resume. So as far as your students transitioning onto high school, like, are they gonna have to repeat years? Everybody gonna be back? Like, what do you think? What do you foresee happening with that?
They're gonna move on, and it's gonna be a weird transition. The last 4 years, I taught 8th grade, and my goal is I always want to teach high school. Let me throw that out there. So, because I have my mentality is to teach high school, I teach the 7th and 8th graders like the game. Like I kind of like. Teach me the game, Ghost. Like I kind of like try to get them prepared for high school. Like I try to hold them a little more accountable. I try to get them to take more guided notes, more independent things. Cause I'm like, you're going to high school next year. I said, you want to be independent doing all the stuff you want to do, but you also want to have to put in the work. I said, the more independence you get, the more responsibility you want to have and accountability you want to take on too. So I try to like just put them on game. So some of the high school kids, when they come back, I've been at the same school for all 9 years, and they always come back, or the sister school, they always come back, whether it's to help out coaching and stuff, and they always say like, yo, I wasn't prepared, but they was like, you tried to do everything in your power to get us prepared. So whether it's about, accountability, about time, or about resume building, or about college, like you have to expose them and get them early.
You teaching resume building?
Right, I appreciate that one.
Oh, I be teaching these kids about building credit.
Oh, God. Hey, I salute you, King. I salute you.
Yo, it's
Right.
when I bought my house and when I bought my car, each year, when I bought my house in 16, I literally just put on the board. So the math teacher was like, yo,
you
what
bought
are
your house at 16?
No, 2016.
Oh,
2016.
Wow.
I was 27 when I bought the house.
Gotcha.
But so one of the big things about it is like I put on the board, like, okay, we talking about credit because I'm teaching civics and econ. So I'm teaching them about credit, teaching them about how moving the decimal and stuff, like try to do that cross-curricular knowledge because like they hate math. So I'm like, okay, let me show you why the math that you are saying is stupid and you're not going to use. Let me show you how you're actually going to use it, how it actually applies to pass 12th grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
My question for you, Brianna, is since you teach special education and language arts and math.
Bria.
Oh, hold on.
Bria.
Oh my. Oh God.
Bria, whatever you like.
Yo, oh my bad.
Yo, change your iPhone name.
Yo, yeah, change it. Change it. Yo, my apologies, Bria.
I change it. Okay.
With you teaching special education, language arts, and math, like how is that? Because they're already in a sense academically challenged.
Yeah.
So how is that?
Yeah.
I don't know the question.
So Howard County, I'll say this. I know what you're trying to say. So Howard County, I'll say this, are really good with making sure the special education students are taken care of. With that being said, all my kids get an additional small group session with me.
Oh, wow.
And I work on their level. So I have about 5 kids in a Google Meet session, and we work on stuff at their level. Also, I work with their teachers to make sure it's accommodated for them. Let's say, for example, a student needs extended time for assignment. I'll make sure the teacher is doing that. The student need like chunk text or a smaller text. That's my job, like us to come in and do that. Now I also teach kindergarten too. I didn't tell you that.
Oh wow!
So
keep on dropping them jewels.
So I meet with them weekly and read stories to them, but they're so young, and I feel like this distant learning, it's just fun for them. And honestly, it's up to the parents to make sure this is being reinforced. Having one session a week is not going to show progress. It's not going to have any gains. So that's why it's important for me to make sure I talk to my parents like, hey, your child's already behind. Make sure you're reinforcing this at home.
Got it.
So
Bria, I have a quick question. I know this is y'all show or whatever.
No, excellent questions. Y'all hit a network as well, and the other head is teaching.
All right, so at the middle school level, we had the collab classes. I never remember seeing collab classes when I was younger, but Bria, are you the co-teacher, or like do you just do pullouts with your co-teacher, or do you actually have separate classes with your kids as well?
So I would say it's a mixture depending on what the student needs. I am a co-teacher in some instances, and then I'll actually, do inclusion. But with inclusion, it's so hard because if you have a main teacher and you're a co-teacher, you have to, collab. So I would say I do more pullouts, and that's where I see like my kids and we actually work one-to-one. So yeah, I think it's a mixture of both. But I know a lot of states and a lot of districts are trying to push inclusion where the kids are all in one class. I know in Baltimore City, they're really trying to do away with like all those little programs to the side. They're trying to do away with those and like push all the kids in one class. But I'm not sure where they are with that.
Okay. Yeah, because I teach inclusion. Every year I've had at least one inclusion class, if not 3 or 4. And my co-teacher, we shared the class together. Like we were always kind of on the same page. Shout out to my 2 co-teachers, Jahara Kirby, and Javon Jefferson. But you know, they taught me the game was fed because, you know, I didn't really know what was going on. Like I was like, oh, we got 2 teachers in the class. I didn't know. People thought there was teaching assistants, but I'm like, no, that is a accredited teacher in her craft. And,
Yes.
you know,
I've had parents say that to me, like, are you assistant? I'm like, no, I'm a teacher.
Yeah.
You have to make your presence known in the classroom, or not, they won't respect you. So I come in there, I'm like, look, I'm a teacher too. So, yeah.
So do you guys think that kids will be back in the classroom by this fall?
I think it depends on this wave, if there's a second wave or not. I think that's really the determinant. They want to keep everybody safe as possible. So the rumors I've heard floating around is that we might start in August, because normally we start the day after Labor Day. They say we might start in August. I doubt that will happen, or they'll postpone it, or we'll start. And if they see wave 2 happening, especially in that cold and flu season, then we'll stop again. So I've heard a lot of different rumors. I think the goal right now is they need a plan. Insurance.
Well, according to the influenza pandemic that happened in like the 18 somethings, they had a timeline of how the different waves went. And where we are kind of mid first wave. So we haven't even hit the second wave yet. So my personal opinion, I feel like it ain't going. But I'm open to hearing others' opinions.
I think we are.
Yeah.
I think we are, because I know, looking at how states are reopening right now, it's kind of like putting in place to open up in the fall for our schools. And I know some campuses are actually, like some colleges are actually opening in the fall already. And also people have to get back to work. And I don't, not that I feel like lives don't matter, but people like have to get back to work. How are we going to reopen our country and continue to operate without that?
Yeah.
Homeschooling isn't an option for everybody, but
Okay.
That's true.
Trinity.
I know in Baltimore County, they're talking about doing A days and B days, or A weeks and B weeks, where 1 week we see a group of students, and then the next week we see a different group of students.
Wow.
I'm not quite sure how that's going to work. Or like one day we see a group of students, the next day we see a group of students. They've been talking about the possibility of doing that so that the kids can get back in school. However, they're not even set in stone that we are going to be back in the school building. Like even now, we have kids who they have, their belongings and lockers and, their stuff in their desk and all that stuff. And we can't even go inside of the school building. We're still not even permitted to go in to get, whatever things we left behind. Because like Ryan said, we were supposed to be gone for just those 2 weeks, and those 2 weeks turned into a month, and then that month turned into 2 months, and then the 2 months turned into the rest of the school year. So it's like Baltimore County right now, I know, is definitely unsure of whether or not we're going to be back in school starting the 2021 school year. They're even talking about us opening up online and then eventually transitioning back into the school.
That's a whole different perspective.
Yeah.
Online semester?
Yeah.
Me personally, and this is just my opinion, but everybody know kids are dirty. They
are
touch stuff and be germy. And
adults dirty too.
That's true. But like kids, they touch stuff, they put stuff in their mouths, and that's just a lot. And I guess I don't even know how, but I guess isolating, I guess them and then like the interaction and just trying to limit that I personally think I don't think they should.
How would you
That's just
really?
my personal opinion.
How would you really do that? Because like the foundation for like a kindergartner, you're teaching them to share and do manners and get them to stand in line and just different things to where like you need that close interaction for them
Well, it
to.
looks like my child just gonna be selfish then because it ain't
But they
happening.
miss those social skills
and
though.
you know, being a parent and being a teacher, it's like I see both sides of it.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a 4-year-old and she'll be 5 in September, and she was supposed to start kindergarten this upcoming fall. But it's like now for me, you know, from having an 11-year-old all the way up to a newborn, her going to kindergarten is kind of like a no-go for me, especially with this whole virus thing going on, because I have a baby. You know, God forbid my baby gets it can be detrimental. So it's like, I don't think that that's a logical idea for us to even go back to school, especially because I know you guys were saying like states are opening back up, but again, those states that are opening back up, their cases are literally going straight back up. You know, they have people who are literally going to the hospital, their ICU numbers are raising again. So it's like they're even contemplating shutting the states down again. So it's like, what do you do?
I get that. I think they also need to look at the data, because that'll tell how successful virtual learning has been, and we might be replaced by computers like that, like starting like
teacher?
summer. Yeah,
Nice.
if it goes well. So I think they should
Hope
look
not.
at data.
I hope not. Don't want that.
My thing is,
Hope not either. I need my job.
yeah, I feel like they can't replace us. Like there are certain things that a teacher does, whether you're a good teacher or a terrible teacher. There's certain things that we do that a computer can't do.
That's true.
I mean, I understand like people are getting master's degrees and different degrees like that when you're online, but you're grown now. You've gone through the process of recess or the process of sitting at lunch or, like connecting. Like think about school as in minor networking. Like you learn how you ain't with your parents all day. You're learning, you're growing.
Like skills.
Like life skill, like what's going to happen to sports? Like I know I'm speaking on the coach's perspective, but let's be real. Sports is like $1 billion industry, and so there's so many jobs that come from that. We're not even talking about the actual athletes. I'm talking about everyone behind the scenes and everything like that. So it's definitely. They can't replace us. I don't think they can replace us, not yet anyway. Maybe the next generation, that might happen. But the semester thing, I'm cool with that. But, certain kids are not just going to sit there and do the work. They need someone to be pushing them and driving them so they can actually, like, continue to learn and grow.
That's true. I have a kid who he hasn't signed on to BCPS since the day before we left school. Like physically in school. He hasn't completed any of the work, any of the packets, anything. And even when we reach out, mom is like, okay, well, he'll get on, he'll do it. And nothing has gotten completed. So here it is, this kid since March has literally received no education, like at all. Hasn't been online, nothing.
Is there any type of like disciplinary action for that? I mean, like, are you guys concerned about his well-being or whatever? Like, how does that work?
I mean, I'm not too concerned about his well-being. Mom and I have a really good rapport, and he's really well taken care of. I don't want to say spoiled, because why have kids if you can't spoil them? Yeah. But he's spoiled rotten. He gets any and everything he wants, okay? He opens up his mouth and mom is like, okay. Right. And it doesn't make it better that mom is a single mom. So, she's basically trying to make up for his dad not being there. And it's like, I don't know what they're going to do about that. They haven't told us anything. They haven't told us, kids who haven't done online learning are going to repeat the grade or whatever the case may be. We don't know. We don't know. You know, our only option is to continue to reach out to the parents of the kids who are not active and the kids who are not completing the work, and just hope and pray that, you know, eventually it clicks and they do it. But
Got it. So, okay, we could play the little what if game, right? I don't know if y'all seen that CDC, they put out like some guidelines on like classrooms, right? So they were saying like, and this is a question as well. Somebody asked, do you think that due to the number of requirements of how many people could be in the classroom at a time, will children do better with a new classroom size?
yes.
What are the? Yeah, I think that's the easy question. But what are
Yes.
how many kids are they saying can be in the classroom? 10.
I'm not even sure. So they basically saying desks got to be 6 feet apart, all facing the same way. It's another one that says distance on school buses, one child per seat, skip rows.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that was funny.
Yeah. No sharing school supplies, no sharing items, belong in individual cubbies.
We are not opening back up in September.
No.
No sharing electronic devices, toys, learning aids.
First of all,
No
what
field
classroom is
trips.
that big?
That's what I'm saying. Like, are y'all opening up 2 schools or how we doing this?
I got 30 plus kids in multiple classes. So
My whole thing is I have close to 30 kids in my classroom. My classroom is not that big. How is that possible? And again, that goes back to, I guess, the A day, B days. But even with that, you know, the kids are touching everything. I mean, doorknobs, going in the bathroom. I mean, I got kids that come out of the bathroom and don't even wash their hands.
okay, you got grown folk that do that too, but kids definitely do that.
That's true, but
Coming out the
still,
dragon.
I mean, I think the kids would do better with small class sizes, because this way you can focus, you know, more on your kids and their needs and that type of stuff. But at the same time, I don't think that that's realistic. I don't
not
think
realistic.
that could ever happen.
It's not realistic, and it's not like natural, and like
No.
humans cannot live that way. That's not no way to live, and it actually would make them more uncomfortable than anything. So
I agree.
I would
with
not
that
like that, but
completely.
yeah.
I mean, kids come to school every day to see their friends.
Yeah, it's weird. I think the class size, this is my own opinion on class size. Class size does matter, but I think the teacher's instruction matters more. So no matter the size of the classroom, the teacher isn't, you know, giving a good instruction or effective instruction.
That's
the
true.
kids, they'll behave, but they won't learn. So that's my whole opinion on class sizes.
Mm.
I think
That's definitely true, though.
yeah.
I agree with that.
I'm not sure how your admin in the school or admin, we call ours downtown because that's where, you know, the city hall building is, and the education is like floor 1 through 15 or whatever. But downtown has a specific way they want us to teach this year. They've been kind of like, not just this year, but, you know, they always push, you know, us doing, like, if a teacher across the hall who's teaching history is doing one thing, they kind of want the other history teachers to be doing the same activities and things like that. To me, I feel like there's no autonomy. What, you know, Miss Lewis does, making up names and calling nobody out, but what Miss Lewis does is completely different than what Mr. Carter does. Both are effective in their own right, but when you try to put people in a box and not, you know, and try to, you know, mold the system instead of letting the teachers mold the children, that's I might have touched on something else. But in terms of class sizes, I mean, I've had a class of 34 and the kids have done well, but I also have had a class of 20 and those students have done exponentially better just because they have more attention, they have more opportunities to ask questions. There's a sense of community that we're building, because you have, you know, the older kids get, then they might be willing to share. We've talked about so many different topics in my class. We've discussed police brutality. We've discussed, you know, all these different things. I don't cut no cards when it comes to my class, but I just kind of like, because the world is not going to be nice to them, so it's like I gotta keep it real with them. But
I appreciate that.
You know, if we don't agree, but we can respectfully have a conversation. You do you, I do me. We keep it moving. Like, as long as your thoughts and opinions aren't hurting and harming someone, and if you do have those thoughts, you can keep them in your head. You don't have to always express whatever the hell you want to say. But I know we got freedom of speech, but freedom of speech don't mean you say whatever the hell you want to out your mouth.
Tell them.
Twitter.
So if you know, the homeschooling has, you know, taken place, what have you guys noticed? Are there any pros or any cons of this new?
Virgo right there.
I don't really have any pros because we on the bench right now, so I don't want to be negative Nancy. Y'all got it, ladies.
Trinity, how do you feel?
For me, I guess because school lets out so late. See, where I am, I teach from 9 to 4. So by the time, you know, I get out of school and I finish running around, I'm home at 6 o'clock, you know, I cook dinner, I get the kids ready for bed. During the week, I barely get to spend time with the kids. And, you know, having a 4-year-old, a 1-year-old, and a newborn, they need a lot of attention. So for me, I guess the pro would be that I get to spend more time with my kids, you know, and me being a teacher, I get to teach my own kids, you know, and I can teach them what they're supposed to be. Like with Esperanza, which is my 4-year-old, I teach her, you know, her sight words. Well, every day while I'm teaching, you know, she's doing ABC math, she's doing something educational. You know, even with my 1-year-old, he listens to educational videos that teaches his ABCs, teaches them his manners, please, excuse me, thank you, sorry, you know, those type of stuff. And I've seen such a growth in my kids with just being home with me and me teaching them when I'm not teaching my kids. But I do feel like it's a negative aspect as well, because I'm not really hands-on with my kids and like in the school, because those are my babies too. Like when I take my kids, those are my kids. From the hours from 9 to 4, they belong to me, you know, and I take such pride in my work and such pride in my data and, you know, making sure that my kids progress, because my job means everything to me. You know, not everybody can teach. You know, some people just go into the profession for the money, and, you know, we don't even get paid what we should, to be honest. You know, they go into the profession just to have a job and to get paid. But for me, it's more than that. And I feel like my kids are missing out on so much, you know, so much that I could give to them. And it's like, as opposed to teaching them math every day, now I'm downsizing it to teaching them math 2 times a week. ELA 2 times a week, and then content 1 time a week. That's not enough. And it's like those 6.5 hours that I have in the day are not enough to even teach them what I need to teach them. So imagine being limited to 45 minutes a day of teaching one subject. It's horrible. And honestly, I really feel like my kids, even the ones who were beginning to be above grade level and start to push towards where they should be, now they're just regressing, because when they're not online, you know, they're in the TV or they're on the phone or they're this or they're that. And then most of them aren't even completing the work. And it's like, I notice like when I'm teaching online, my kids, you know, you'll see their screen, but they'll be doing other things. Like they'll pull up Roblox on the computer. And, you know, when you call on them, they don't even know what you're talking about, you know, and then the parents don't even sit with them to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to. Right. You know, so it's, you know, you have some parents who care and some parents who are like, oh, well, you know, it is what it is. You're home, you know, do what you can. So, and then you have some parents who they're essential workers and they have to work throughout the day. So they leave their kids home, you know, hoping and praying that their work will get done. They don't check behind them. It's just, it's like, it's yeah, in a sense, it's hard.
And it's crazy because, I was about to say, it's crazy because the parents will hold you to a higher accountability than what they will hold themselves for their own child as far as learning.
But that's because we spend more time with their kids in a day than they do. Let's be real. We know their kids. Some teachers know their kids better than the parents do.
Yeah, like sometimes those kids, they enjoy coming to school because it's an outlet. Like some of those kids may not come from the best areas and may not have the best home situations, despite if it's a two-parent household or a single parent household. They're like, I cannot wait to get out this
to
house.
go to school. I can't wait to see my teacher. I can't wait to, and that's another thing that I feel like is a con. You had students who are physically, mentally, and verbally abused every day. Students who, their parents can't even afford or don't even know where their next meal is coming from. And yeah, Baltimore County provides, what they can, but that's not really enough.
Yeah.
So it's like, I worry about my kids who have a lot going on at home as well. So, it's hard.
So speaking of meals, with school letting out the way it did, have any of y'all schools did meal sites for them or for lunches and stuff?
Yeah.
How's
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yep.
That's dope.
My school in Howard County, we definitely have meal sites. They began when we first left. I'm not sure if they're still doing them, but they began when we first left, and it was for breakfast and lunch.
Oh wow. Do any of y'all socially distance visit your children? I've seen something like that on YouTube. That's what I'm asking.
One of my kids actually, her birthday was on the 20th, and I work with her uncle, and he had a social distance drive-by for her birthday. And all the teachers and stuff from the school and the staff came out, bought her gifts and stuff like that. So but other than that, I haven't even seen any of my kids. So, which is another part that sucks, because it's like you go from seeing them every day to not seeing them at all. And we weren't even prepared, so it's not like we said our proper goodbyes. You know how when summer comes around and you get your hugs and you tell them how much you're gonna miss them and how proud of them you are and stuff like that. It's like, it's not the same. And it's like, yeah, we see them on the computer, but in person is so much more personal. And it's so much more intimate. And it's like the relationship becomes so much better because it's like you're with this person physically every day. You're doing this, you're doing that, you're attending to their needs and being there for them emotionally, physically, and you're teaching them. So it's a difference.
I could agree with that because just the other day we were having a session, reading session, and I had my assistant in there taking data. And one of my kids, she's usually on task. She's always engaging, asking questions. But today, that one particular day, she was off. And after the session was over, my assistant goes, yeah, she didn't know how. I said, no, yes, she does. I said, it's just right now it's getting to her. And she wasn't on her game right now. But usually she's on task. She can, read with fluency, expression. But this is one particular day, I guess the pandemic was getting to her and she wasn't really responding as usual. So I don't want to take that data as accurate data because it's not accurate to her true reading skills.
Yeah.
Idle mind is a devil's workshop. And
you be dropping bars, right?
Get my mixtape later. It really is, man. I've been seeing some of my students or former students, because once my students leave, but a good amount of my kids have my Instagram handle or whatever. Not on purpose, kind of. I'll get to that social media thing in a second, but a couple kids got my socials or whatever, and I'm seeing some of the things that they are doing right now. Even when school's in session, if they got too much time, you say, all right, you finish your work. I've tried to say, all right, cool, we finish your work. You can chill on your phone for a little bit. Nope, that don't work because you got to always have something for them to do because so if we doing that in school, imagine what they are doing outside of school right now. So Kids just got too much dad time and they're bored and they are doing some wild stuff. Like even the kids in my neighborhood. So I teach in Richmond City, but I live in Chesterfield County, which is literally 10 minutes away. But the change in terms of like the wealth and the school systems between those 10 minutes is ridiculous. But kids are just running around. I saw like 6 kids on one trampoline the other day. I was like, oh, y'all wilding. Like, not social distancing at all. Like, kids don't understand that concept.
Yeah.
But, I got baby. But, yeah, it's rough. I mean, sometimes I go through certain restaurants, like I know a good amount of my former students either work at cookout or whatever. So anytime I go to Zaxby's or cookout, I was like, man, I hope I see one of my students. And just seeing them for that split brief second, and then we just chop it up in the drive-through is like, all right, I needed some love, man. Like, I miss my kids.
Hey, bro, put an extra burger in my bag.
No, they be looking out though. One girl made me a $5 box from Popeyes. They had a $5 box. She was like, Miss James, you want an apple pie? Yeah, go ahead and put that in there.
So James, for you, because you do teach, you're currently on 7th grade level, right?
Yeah, they moved me to 7th grade this year. I found out like a week before school started. I was pissed. I was pissed.
Because I was going to ask, like, I mean, I'm pretty sure you're still close with a lot of your students that are in the 8th grade going to the 9th grade now. I want to ask, like, did that affect them emotionally, or how did it affect them emotionally, them not knowing that they won't be able to walk across the stage to graduate?
For 8th grade, we used to run like graduation, like a real graduation 8th grade. I'm glad they stopped doing that. Some people were saying like, oh, we run it like this because we're not sure if they're going to make it to the next graduation. I'm just like, no, we can't think like that. Like we call it a moving on ceremony because you're moving on to something bigger and better. But I was talking to one of my former students. He's probably one of the closest students I've been with. I taught him 7th and 8th grade, and he was my team captain. I was talking to him about it the other day, and he just was like, man, he said it sucks. More than likely, he probably was going to be prom king and everything. And he's just like, it sucks. But he is kind of like trying to use his time effectively and trying to express himself effectively. So, he been in the studio. You was talking about bars earlier. He been in the studio. So he used to try to do like rap and stuff. But now he kind of like is experimenting with like singing, doing R&B and funk and stuff. And he's actually killing it right now. So some of my students are doing positive things. Some of them still working. Some of them are still doing this. And they're like, it sucks. The girl I saw yesterday, days ago, she's like, I'm be going to VCU in the fall. I was like, that's great to hear, because when she was in middle school, she was wilding. But, told me she going to, VCU in the fall. And I'm like, yo, congratulations. In my mind, I'm like, I hope that you are able to actually go to school in the fall instead of having your first college experience be online. But
yeah, I can't do online classes. I ain't got the attention span. I need to be around other people. I need ideas bounced off of me. I am not an online learner.
So imagine my kids who have disabilities, they can't really organize themselves in the classroom. So I have parents calling me like, my child can't keep up with their checklist. And it's like, I can't support them. We're not physically there. So I deal with that on the daily.
Yeah. That's like your job as, the parent. And
so like, how do I help them with that?
Exactly.
Or students who, like I've had students who've been in my class who've had disabilities, and like they had IEP 6th and 7th grade, but when they got to 8th grade, they were like, yo, do they really need an IEP? I was like, they probably didn't need it in 6th grade, but they weren't, getting, I don't know, that's a whole different, so many kids are misdiagnosed with a disability before you actually say, yo, is it a disability, or you just need to hear it a different way or see it a different way? So some of those kids who are on the bubble, like, you don't know, like some kids, like when they get to 8th grade, yo, okay, cool, you needed these services in elementary and middle school, but by the time 8th grade, like, yo, you kind of got this under control, so you ready to go to high school and you going to try your own, but it's like, we don't have that data to see how your 8th grade year went. So, you know, there's,
Do you feel like schools off label these children early on, and then I think that kind of sticks with them to the point where they even start to be themselves?
Yep.
It does enable them, yeah.
I've had some really, really, really smart kids, and some of them needed that, you know, that IEP, just because, not necessarily because they just needed to take their tests in a small group so they wouldn't get distracted while watching 30 kids in a classroom. They needed to just take the test with 10, 15 people. They didn't need any extra notes, any extra time. They just needed to take the test in a quieter environment.
I'm
like,
that way.
Whether you take it, like, think about when we took the praxis. I don't know how, when y'all took the praxis, but when I took it, it was literally like me and like 3 other people in the room to take the praxis.
Was it online? Like, was it
on the computer? Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. They keep those sizes really small.
My thing is, if you're keeping things like that small, why can't we accommodate, you know, why have 35 people in the classroom for, like, I'm not gonna say all children can't, you know, stay focused, but I know I have ADHD. I'm bouncing all over the place. So I know damn well a 12-year-old kid, if you put a cell phone in front of them, 30 kids in a classroom, they're gonna get off task occasionally.
But I've seen, you know, just being an advocate for my students, I've seen kids who literally, it's like the classic description of ADHD. Like, the student will be sitting there tapping their pencil on the desk for 5 to 10 minutes, and you'll say something to them and they will not remember what you said. That's a problem. That interferes with their education. Now, you just being, you know, hyper, that's not really defining ADHD. But if you can't learn, or if it's interfering with your academics, then that is a true disability. I've seen kids who literally if they don't have the medication, they're up on the chairs, and kids coming from good homes, you know, so it's not like the nurture. So I think there is people who are being labeled too much, but at the same time, it is ADHD. Like, it's true.
I know that they're cracking down though, really hard, on labeling kids, you know, with IEPs and 504s and stuff like that. Like, when you come, especially in Baltimore County, when you come and say, you know, I want to request a team for a student, I feel like they need an IEP or a 504, like, you got to come with hard facts, hard data. You know, what interventions have you tried? Have you tried this? Have you tried moving them? Have you tried chunking their work? You know, so I know for me as a teacher, I have to take multiple steps, you know, and sometimes they don't even get diagnosed really, or they don't even get the testing that they need until they get to like 4th and 5th grade. And by the time they get that, they're 2-3 grade levels behind, you know, and that's where that like gap comes in. And I mean, you know, it is about the teacher, but at the same time, as a teacher, there's only but so much you can do when it's not being reinforced at home. You know, when the kid goes home and they're not doing the work, or, you know, you make suggestions to the parent, you know, I really think that, you know, so-and-so should work on this at home, you know, just to reinforce it, especially because they're struggling in school. And the parent's like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then, you know, it doesn't get done. Yeah. So, you know, and then they get mad because you didn't like the exactly. And then they blame it on you. Oh, well, it's your fault. You're the teacher. You're supposed to this. You're supposed to that. But my thing is, teaching a kid is a community job. It's not just my job, you know.
Oh, nice.
Village. Takes a village.
It's like,
let's go.
As the parent, to basically reinforce what I'm doing in school. I can talk their head off all day, but what are you doing to reinforce it? Are you making sure their homework is done? Are you making sure that when they're not in school, they're at least doing something educational? They're not sitting in front of the game all day. You know, with my son, he's 11 and he loves the game, but he's limited to the game an hour a day. That's it.
Okay, parenting.
You know, I'm so big on education. And my mom, she was 23, 3 kids, and graduated from her master's program with almost a 4.0. So it's like, if she can do it,
go Liz.
You know, if she can do it, I can do it. If I can do it, my son can do it. You know, and he doesn't even have, you know, I hope and pray that he doesn't make me a young grandmother. But still, you know, it's just like, I just feel like a lot of it comes from them not reinforcing at home. Because if they're not reading at home, if they're not reading for that 20 minutes a day, a kid who reads for 20 minutes a day builds their vocabulary tremendously, rather than a kid who reads for 5 minutes or who doesn't read at all. You know, so it's really important as parents that, you know, we make sure that we're reinforcing this stuff at home. But it's hard because it's a one-way track. It's like, you're the teacher, you figure it out, you do it. You know, I had parents who are coming to me that they don't even know what to do with their kid at home. And it's like, I got to give them suggestions. Oh, well, she doesn't follow directions. Use a timer, you know, give her a timer. You spend 15 minutes doing whatever it is you want her to do, cleaning her room, give her a 5-minute break, you know, then reset the timer for her. It's ridiculous.
All right. So Chris and I just have, well, I have one question and then he has one question. So we are going to go ahead, Chris, you can go ahead and shoot yours.
I think she kind of just went on with it.
Oh, okay, cool.
But I bet y'all can answer it as well. But my question is, what is one tip that you have for parents, like being teachers, teaching 30 to 40 children at one time? What tips do you have for a parent that's, you know, that's in this COVID teaching classroom, teaching their one child and ensuring that their one child is getting the proper education that they need to succeed?
Buy-in.
Oh.
Buy-in. What I mean by that is the parent has to buy in just as much as you want the child to buy in.
Mm-hmm.
So just in a spirit of transparency, first 4 months of the school year, I was not happy. Like I had, you know, tried to get a transfer to the high school. Things didn't work out. And then I got moved from 8th grade to 7th grade. So I was really pissed about it. And I was like, yo, what lesson is God trying to teach me right now? Because I'm like, I did everything. I was doing everything right. 8th grade was going like a breeze, whatever. I was ready for the next step. Things didn't happen. And I had to realize, like, yo, we're not always in control. It's not like the video game where you can control all the action. Like life, things get thrown at us in life and we got to learn to adapt. Because the only constant that we have in this world is change. Change is the only thing in the universe that remains the same. So I kind of got out my feelings and coming into January, I said, the only way I can make a great impact on these kids is to buy in. So what I started doing is taking the same coaching tactics and putting it into the classroom. Whenever I saw my basketball, football players struggling running those suicides, I would kick different quotes at them or different little things I had read or just different things. And, you know, I started my day off by having the kids want to learn. So, you know, everyone has a warm up. We call it a snap. I always say Snapchat, but we call it a snapshot, like a little warm up, whatever. So I would give them like one warm up question. The second warm up question, I would find somebody from history. I don't care if it was an athlete, a writer, an entertainer, or some positive quote. And I will put the quote on the board and I said, I want you to write whatever this quote is. Take them completely out of the aspect of you have to learn English or you have to learn history. Like, you're not going to learn if you don't want to be there. So you have to try to get the kids to buy in as much as possible. Once I started doing that in January, I put a routine on myself. I'm like, okay, when they first walk in the classroom, they're going to see a quote on the board. I have a little whiteboard right when they walk in. So they're going to see that quote on the board. Then when they get in the classroom, they're going to see the quote again. And at this point now, I was like, okay, what's going on? Why are we seeing all these quotes? And every quote has to deal with making yourself better. And I asked the kids a simple question. Who wants to be successful? Everyone raised their hands. I was like, okay, cool. Who wants this? Who wants that? You have to understand that whatever goal or aspiration you have, it takes work. It takes grind. It takes consistency. It takes passion. The same way I'm passionate about going into that building every day and being around these young brothers and sisters is the same energy that parents need to have and say, look, I know I'm at home, I know I'm not a teacher, but I'm going to buy in as much into this myself, and I'm gonna model it for you. Because kids do what they see. And real recognize real. Kids, they don't lie. They might lie about like little dumb stuff, but in terms of like their feelings of how they feel for you, they're not gonna lie. Like they just blurt whatever out their mouth and they don't even think about it. So parents just have to buy in. It's a different situation, but we got to change. Change is the only thing in the universe that remains the same. Those who adapt persevere. Those who do not merely fade away.
That was good. That was a real good response, right?
This Twitter probably popping with quotes.
It was when the school year started. I started trying to do this little motivational speaking thing, and the kids start buying in because it was like, this is something that you really want to do. And I was like, yes. I was like, you know what else I really want to do? Get y'all to pass.
All right. Bria?
One tip that I would give them is to, one, you have to support your student. So just because they're in 5th grade or middle school, it still look like you said, it's a village, and you have to be there for them and with them you can't just sit them in front of the computer and think they'll get it done. Work with your student. Also listen. I have a 3-year-old at home too, and being a teacher, I know it's annoying having a mom message because like all day long we're like doing learning, and everything we do I turn into like a learning experience. So just listen, support your student, and I like that he said adapt. It's going to take a while for us to get used to all this. So just listen, take it slow, and support your student.
Trinity?
I think my biggest advice, honestly, would just be that reinforcement. Especially this day and age with this Common Core, even if you need to as a parent, sit down with your kid while, they're doing their online learning. Take a minute to get a view at, whatever it is their teacher is teaching or whatever it is that their teacher is doing and wants them to do, and kind of invest yourself in it. Because, who better to invest in a child and show them that education is important than their parent? They're with you every day. You raise them. Your kids look up to you. So, take interest in what they're doing, because if you're taking interest in what they're doing and they see, okay, my parent really cares about my education, my parent is always going to be there, my parent is always going to support me, they really feel like education is important, then it's going to push them to go that extra mile. Oh, I have this assignment to do. Can you sit with me? Can you do this assignment with me? Or even for them to do it on their own and then go back and say, hey, Ma, look, I did this assignment. Look at the grade I got on it, because a lot of the times when they do the assessments and stuff online, their grades automatically come back. So it's like they can go and show their parent, and, their parent is that reinforcer, oh, well, great job, what else can I help you with? What else can I do? So I think it's really important as a parent to just be there, sit by your child's side and help them with whatever they need to help with, because this is not only a major adjustment for us as teachers, but for them as students, especially them being in elementary school. This is really, really hard. For the older kids, eventually they'll adjust and they'll get used to it. But for the younger kids, I don't think they'll ever fully get used to not being in the classroom and, doing that online learning piece.
But I want to just piggyback on that because you said support. You said, so your biggest one was support. What was that?
Reinforcement.
Support and reinforcement. I just want to tag back in because I hear when parents, when a kid comes in, the parent goes, oh, what did you learn today in school? It's kind of like you see, you got everything now. Like you literally have everything that you can see. And I know some parents are like, I don't remember this from back such and such, but this is why it's also important. Like Trinity, you brought up reading, like reading and still using your mind. Like even though we might not, whoever it is, might not be in school, grad school, whatever, we still need to use this. Like this is a muscle that, if you continue to use it, like you can 70, 80 years old, you can still be very wise and be very sharp. So those parents who's like, I don't really remember what they learned. This is your time to get back in the game. Like,
Yeah, most definitely. This is your
game,
time to
coach.
learn. That's your time to shine.
So this is my final question. I think this would be a good question to kind of like wrap up the podcast as well. What got each and every one of you into teaching?
Ooh.
So when I left college, I majored in psychology, like a lot of people did in my class. And I started to work at Kennedy Krieger on a behavior unit. I worked there and I worked with kids who had autism, severe autism. And then I worked there for 2 years and I loved it. I learned so much at Kennedy Krieger. However, I knew that wasn't the end for me. So I worked at the school for a year as an assistant, and I worked under this great teacher, Miss Chastity, and she taught me a lot about special education and building IEPs and just supporting students with IEPs and autism and disabilities. And from there, it just started from there. So I went to grad school for education, became a teacher. I taught in Baltimore City. And that's when I realized that, okay, I know I want to do special education, but now I want to work in urban education, Title I schools, kids who need me the most, and kids who look like me. So that's how I got into this field. And I want to continue to work in this field and help young girls find themselves, build confidence, and know that there are other options out there. You don't have to follow one path just because that's all you see. So, yeah.
Thank you for that.
Trinity, you got it. You still thinking?
So what drove me to be an educator was an 8th grade teacher of mine. During 8th grade, Maiya knows, because she knows me, I went through a lot, and it was a big transition for me, and I was going through a lot emotionally, and even with my friends in school, and with all the rumors that were going around, because at the time I was being bullied, and there were a lot of things that were going on. And, you know, instead of being that teacher who was like, oh, well, you know, let me talk to you, you know, what's going on? Instead, she took what she heard and she looked down on me, and, you know, she made it seem like I was going to be nothing, and, you know, that I wouldn't succeed, and, you know, that I was going to be, you know, another statistic, a teenage mom, you know, a dropout from high school or whatever the case may be. And it's like, I took that so personal, and I took it and I let it drive me to where I wanted to be the teacher that a student could come to if they were having problems. If they were having problems at home, I wanted to be the teacher that made a difference in a kid's life, where they come back to me and tell me, you know, Miss Stevens, you know, I used to think that I couldn't do A, B, and C. And thanks to you, you know, I know that I can do it. And I know that I'm a smart student. And I know that, you know, I'm going to be successful one day. And it's like, when my kids look back at me, I want them to see the teacher that pushed them, not the teacher who looked at them like they were less because of the things that they went through, or the things that they were going through, or the things that they heard. And I'll never forget my first year teaching. I had a kid, and they would come to me and they would say, "Oh, you have her? Good luck. She's so horrible. She's so terrible." And the first thing that she said to me, and I'll never forget, is, "I already know you heard all bad things about me, because that's all people say. They don't have anything nice to say about me." And even though that was true, I chose the opposite route. And I told her, well, you know what? I heard nothing but good things about you, so I expect nothing but great from you. And I saw such a great growth just within that school year. And now, even though she doesn't go to the school anymore, she's currently, I think, at Cardinal Sheehan. She's doing amazing. I mean, and she came back and she visited me and she told me, you know, "Thank you so much for believing in me, Miss Stevens. You know, I'll never forget you. I love you so much." And even now, her dad reaches out to me sometimes, you know, just to let me know how she's doing. And for me, like, that's my biggest thing. That's all I wanted to do. And that's what I want to continue to do for my students, especially my minorities, because they look at us and they see another statistic.
Yeah. My mom kind of put the buzz in my head. My mom works for Richmond Public Schools actually as well. She's a administrative assistant. She's, floated around to different offices and stuff downtown, but she kind of put the bug in my head. And originally the bug was like, there's a need for Black men in education. And she was like, you're always gonna have a job. Like, she would look at things economically. She was still good at things like consistency or whatever, but growing up, my dad wasn't around. We have a relationship, but he lives in New York, and I was about 8th or 9th grade when I said, hey, I wanted to be a teacher. And it wasn't necessarily, like I said, the buzz got put in my head. I worked a summer job where I was tutoring for Richmond Public Schools at 14. So I've been on the RPS staff since I was 14. I'm 31 now.
Damn.
And like I said, I'm an only child. I got only child syndrome. So younger kids, anytime I work with younger kids or whatever, it's always just kind of seemed easy for me. And the lack of positive Black male role models who are not entertainers. And that takes nothing away from the entertainers, because I love LeBron James, I love J. Cole, and I love what they do for their communities, and all the other, brothers Slim Thug who building houses in Houston. We can go all day long about the Black men who are doing these things. But my goal was to show young Black men that no matter the daddy issues, no matter what the world is throwing at them, no matter, I hated middle school and high school when I was growing up, dealing with bullying and there things like that. But I wanted to show students that no matter what situation, circumstance, or whatever you're going through, you can get through it. Like, you really can get through it, and you can grow and you can build. Ironically, my first few years of teaching, maybe because I was 23 when I first started and I looked dumb young, and the boys, it took a while for me to reach the boys. The girls, I'm like, wow, this is different. Like, I had a better connection with the young ladies in comparison. The boys did not rock with me. Every time I walked in, they, roasted me because I got a quote unquote a suit on. I'm like, it's not a suit, it's just a shirt and tie, relax. But just trying to build up the community I'm around. I grew up with having one Black male teacher the entire time, K through 12. 7th grade, and he left at Christmas because his wife, it wasn't because every time I said it, everyone's like, oh, he quit on y'all. I'm like, no, his wife got a job in Japan and he went with his wife. But the lack of Black male teachers, like in elementary school, didn't see any at all. In middle school, I saw one. In high school, I saw one. So the lack of Black male teachers, are like, going into education, going into a field where every day you can affect the lives of kids, whether they have a good house, 2-parent household with both parents with degrees, or the child who, is struggling. And, we've seen so many rags to riches stories. All it takes is one teacher.
Mm-hmm.
All it takes is one teacher to change a child's life. Jay-Z still talks about his English teacher to this day. And I'm hearing all these rappers, and I love my music. I'm hearing all these rappers who talk negatively about the teacher that said they weren't going to do this, the teacher that said they won't do that, and we all know, like, the teacher's lounge can be the most toxic, negative place.
Mm-hmm.
It really can be. And like and I understand we all have our days and we need to vent, but that's what happy hours are for. But
the dragon.
The dragon.
Hold on, is that a Baltimore term? Like the dragon?
Yeah.
It's a bar.
It's a bar.
But it's like, the kids are a big part of me. Like I said, I'm an only child. I got a small family. It is 5 of us in Richmond. And, my students are my extended family. Like, I love them kids. Even the most knucklehead of knucklehead kids, or the kid that brings you a Nintendo 64 hoodie for Christmas, and she's not even, I'm not even her real teacher. I'm her study hall teacher. But she played ball, and I met her since 6th grade, and we just kind of linked, and had her older sister, and just like the things you can do when you just teach out of love. Forget the curriculum sometimes, forget the snapshot, forget the politics, forget the testing. Sometimes we just teaching these kids to try to be better than we were.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I teach.
All right now.
Damn, that's deep. Yo,
Right?
these teacher COVID bars. I love it.
Get emotional might be that, but
Hey, do y'all want to shout out y'all social media?
yeah, I need
I'm
to
sure. Sure. You can follow me at honeybee_821. I probably should change my name sometime soon, but that's my name right now.
Honeybee.
And it's my name, Bria Robinson, on Facebook.
Okay.
Word. Honeybee. You need to just
I'm Trinity Brianna _ on Instagram and Trinity B Walston on Facebook.
I am Ryan James on Facebook. I know it's probably 1,000 of us. Ryan James on Facebook. On Instagram, I am __RJames2.
Well, I want to say thank y'all for coming on. I really do. I really appreciate having y'all on. And like I said, the main reason for this podcast was to highlight the teachers, especially because I feel as though y'all are unsung heroes that parents
Absolutely.
are praising right now. And, you know, I don't know. It's just a lot going on, especially with the complexities of how teaching is now, because it's like a brick and mortar to what like thousands of people are used to over 100 years, and now we're going to like virtual. Like it wasn't no phase in. It was just like snap of the fingers, virtual. So you know,
Thanos.
Yeah, Thanos.
I definitely. Oh, sorry, Chris.
No, go. I just said I wanted to commend y'all for that.
Definitely want to thank you guys for tuning in, sharing your stories, giving us some insight, because there were certain things I didn't even know, what the cities and states are considering as far as how we're going to proceed forward with this. So I really want to thank you guys for letting us in to your life as an educator. I really wish you guys the best of luck, with teaching during this COVID season. And hopefully we can, all get drinks one day when this is over.
Yes, hopefully.
Because I know y'all need it.
Yo, it's been another episode of Unpredictable Thoughts Podcast. Your boy Trouble's in the building.
We got Maiya, the designing agent here. We out.
Peace.